Well, you saw the Obama's beachfront estate there, and this ties into an article up on summit.news. It's top story right now. So shocking. Study finds the wealthy and celebrities aren't changing their flying habits to reduce CO2 emissions. Imagine my shock. A new study by Swedish academics has found that most wealthy people and celebrities, such as Bill Gates, are not changing their flying habits to help reduce climate change, with some responsible for 1,000 times more CO2 emissions than the average person. This is a study carried out by researchers from Lund University in Sweden, which reviewed the social media accounts of well-known celebrities and wealthy philanthropists, many of whom relentlessly virtue signal about climate change. You've got to change your life. Turns out they're not really changing theirs. Based on the information posted relating to travel, the researchers calculated the starting point and destination for flights and then worked out likely CO2 emissions. And take a rough guess at what they discovered. Of course, we've got the denizens of the climate change movement, people like Leonardo DiCaprio, literally flying tens of their friends from LA to Paris. He's taken a private jet to pick up the environmental award. He flies them all around the world on his private jet to watch his environmentalist documentaries. He hangs out on a 400-foot boat owned by a Middle Eastern oil sheikh, then goes to a people's climate change march. Well, it works out a similar situation when you look at people like climate activist Bill Gates, who it turns out was responsible for approximately 1,600 tons of carbon dioxide, while flights used by Paris Hilton and Jennifer Lopez emitted 1,260 tons and 1,050 tons, respectively. These figures compare to a global average of 100 kilos per person per year for air travel, or in other words, the CO2 emitted as a result of flights taken by celebrities and wealthy rich people like Bill Gates are more than 1,000 times higher. Similar to Prince Harry, who is, of course, friends with DiCaprio as well, who is, of course, friends with Greta Thunberg, who we're going to get into in a minute. Prince Harry took 4 private jet trips in the space of 11 days while lecturing everyone else about global warming. Was he trying to save the planet when he was doing that? No, he was partying in Elton John's mansion. And then they get up on television with him and Meghan Markle and say how much of a struggle their lives are. Such a struggle. 4 private jet trips in 11 days. So hard for them. According to the researchers of this study in Sweden, only a minority of the individuals studied had altered their behavior to minimize or stop flying. So out of all the celebrities that they looked through their social media history, only a tiny amount in the past few years had actually made any effort to minimize flying, while lecturing you all day long about, in the case of Prince Charles, infamously once said that you shouldn't take hot baths. These people are flying around the world to the extent of emitting 1,000 times more CO2 than the normal person, but they're still going to wag their finger at you. And yeah, I get it. If you're famous, if you're a public figure, you need to travel a lot. That's fine. Just don't wag your finger at poor people and tell them they need to change their behavior. Like the Extinction Rebellion activists who occupied the meat market in Smithfields in London, literally lecturing working class people that they were bad for eating meat. Meanwhile, jetting off to Daddy's ski lodge in Stade, Switzerland every 6 months. So the researchers themselves found, and by no means is this a right-wing study, it's academics in Sweden, for God's sake, that they had not changed their behavior at all in the vast majority of cases. Quote, their lifestyles are norm setting and identity building. Above all, young people dream of traveling around the world in a similar way, without having to worry about money, said one of the academics involved in the study. Once again, very much a case of do as we say, not as we do. And the backlash to this is getting more and more vehement. You saw Greta Thunberg, the patron saint of climate change, there in the video previously. Well, now we have this headline, Stop the Lies, mural of Greta Thunberg defaced in Canada. Of course, 6 months ago, the Germans were putting stickers all over their cars saying F Greta Thunberg. Well, now a mural of eco-activist Greta Thunberg was defaced in Edmonton, Alberta, with the vandal telling Thunberg to stop lecturing him on how to live his life. So somebody painted a mural of Greta after her infamous "How dare you" rant in front of the UN in September. 3 days later, it was defaced by a vandal who spray painted over it with the words, "Stop the lies, this is oil country." This is what he said to CBC. "My father has worked in the oil industry. We don't need foreigners coming in and telling us how to run our business, support our families, put food on our tables. It's absolutely intolerant of them, climate activists, to tell us how to change our lives and our people. She should go back to her country and try to make her country better." That would be an uphill task, given that her country is Sweden, the progressive utopia. But again, Greta Thunberg, when she wrote that letter to the UN, the letter of complaint, did not include India, did not include the biggest polluter in the world, China. There's no Greta Thunberg tour of China taking place, is there? And again, as we previously highlighted, German drivers began displaying "FU Greta" bumper stickers on their cars. You've got the yellow vests in France. You've got the protesters in the Netherlands protesting against livestock reductions, again related to climate change regulation. The backlash is spreading. Infowars.com. We'll be back. We are into the second hour of the Alex Jones Show. In the next segment, we're going to go to Laura Loomer, who has had the comeback of all comebacks, outraising the Democratic incumbent there in South Florida and all the GOP candidates combined in her attempted run for Congress. So we're going to get into that in the next segment. Meanwhile, back in Clown World, UK, which is where I live, where we have a 19% increase in violent crime over the course of the last year, where we have acid attacks, where people literally 5 minutes from where I live get stabbed to death on a weekly basis, it seems almost at this point, where we have chronically underfunded police forces. They are tackling the real problem, which is racist toddlers. Headline: UK police force highlights problem of racist toddlers as part of Hate Crime Awareness Week. Because, of course, now everything's a hate crime. Reports of hate crime are going up just by coincidence, which allows the media to create this moral panic hysteria that the UK is a racist country, and basically that we've seen the return of fascism when it's one of the most welcoming countries in terms of immigration in the entire world. Well, now a UK police force created a video which portrayed a white toddler being racist towards another toddler in kindergarten as part of Hate Crime Awareness Week. This was Devon and Cornwall police. They came out with a series of these videos. In every single video, the bigoted racist person was, you guessed it, white. Devon and Cornwall police posted a cartoon video to their official Twitter account, which features a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl racially abusing a dark-skinned boy. And the video is in this article. In the cartoon, the white girl sees the brown boy playing with a toy before walking up to him and telling him, quote, "Stop playing with those, you're going to make the toys dirty like your skin." The brown boy immediately starts crying before the teacher intervenes. The white girl then says, "My father said we should not play with people like him because they are different." It's one of numerous cartoons. Another one features a white guy grabbing a hijab off of a Muslim woman, posted to Twitter by Devon and Cornwall police, where in every case, the racist protagonist is white. And as Jack Montgomery points out in an article for Breitbart, the cartoons urge the public to report, quote, hateful behavior, even if it isn't a crime. So again, it's all in the eye of the beholder. A lot of people on the left think that voting Leave and supporting Brexit is a hate crime. They're going to report that too? Oh, probably. And then you'll get the hate crime report statistics going up and up and up, which allows the media to create this narrative that there's a massive problem with it, even though it's their own hysteria causing the problem in the first place. They also offer assurances that, quote, you don't even need evidence. Just denunciations like we had in Nazi Germany. Great, no evidence required. Last week, we highlighted how a chief of police in Britain chose to recognize International Pronouns Day, which was trending on Twitter all day, by putting out a video warning people that misgendering transgender people was a form of abuse. We've had people, women, mothers, arrested in their own kitchens and locked up for hours and hours for calling a man on the internet. And all this is occurring while police budgets are stretched to breaking point and the UK's violent crime rate continues to soar. What else are UK police investigating? Well, they're investigating a transgender person being turned down for a porn role as a hate crime. This is 25-year-old Rhea Cooper, who became the UK's youngest transgender person 10 years ago. Stunning and brave. Received messages on WhatsApp from an anonymous photographer who wanted to have sex on camera and sell the tape. Lovely stuff. However, when the photographer found out that Cooper still had male reproductive organs, he said he couldn't work with her because she has a C. This prompted Cooper to alert Humberside police to this transphobic behaviour, and authorities are now investigating whether a hate crime was committed. And they did indeed confirm that a potential hate crime is now being investigated because this man, this photographer, didn't want to have sex with somebody who had a penis. Is that going to extend out to maybe dating websites where you have biological men fronting as transgender women who come up on dating websites, and then maybe if you don't select them, maybe if you're not interested, maybe if you have a little chat with them and say, sorry, I'm not interested, maybe you committed a hate crime. We'll be back. Well, the Daily Caller came out with a big article earlier today, which we also posted up on Infowars.com. Experts explain possible reasons behind a 56% jump in youth suicide rate in 10 years. Absolute explosion of suicides amongst young people in America. And generally across the country, there's been a 30% increase in suicides. What are the reasons, and what impact has social media had on that dramatic spike in suicides? It's a problem that the mainstream media is not talking about. They bang on all day about a stigma around depression and people not being able to talk about it, even though people talk about it more than ever, and yet depression and suicide seems to be going up more than ever. There was a clip of Jordan Peterson, who's had many personal problems of his own over the past 6 months or so. Of course, his wife nearly died, crying during an interview. Of course, his haters mobbed onto that and basically said, oh, poor baby, why are you crying? These are the same people, these same progressives who bang on all day about mental health awareness, bang on all day about how depressed they are and how you can't criticize them because it triggers their depression. As soon as anyone shows emotional vulnerability on the political right, they steam in and mob attack them and viciously savage them, as they did with Dr. Jordan Peterson yesterday. So I'm going to get into that later on in this hour.